Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming along to our Bendigo Amateur Radio Electronics Club Zoom meeting this evening. And this evening's presentation will be on Volunteer Examiners Australia by Lee Moyle, VK3GK. And I spoke to Lee at the Rosebud Hamfest last year and spoke to him about the possibility of doing a presentation about what it's all about. And you know, what the attraction is of getting a US license, what you can use the US license for, and also VEA do Australian exams too. So welcome everybody, and welcome Lee. Without further ado, I'll put it over to you, Lee, VK3GK. Welcome.
Okay, yeah, thanks Graham, and good evening everyone. So that's a bit of a brief introduction. Just a quick question, is there anyone here that well, I know there's a couple with US licenses, but are there any people who are actually interested in doing a US license at some stage down the track? Jeff, you're going to do the next one up. That's cool.
Mate,
all right, I'll just go to the, see if we can get this to work. Hang on, share screen thing, and see if we can get this to happen. One I want. Okay. So USA and VK Amateur Radio Licensing. Basically, it's by us, VEA. That's our banner that Peter's organised. Now, actually, are these in the way? These that's better. Yep. All right. Cool. So the origins in 2015, 3 local VK3 amateurs we decided to go to Dayton Hamvention in the USA, and part of that deal was to sit our US extra class licenses. After 2 weeks in the States, on returning to VK, all 3 of us did apply to the ARRL to become volunteer examiners, or VEs. 2 were already 10-year WIA assessor veterans. The original 3 founders are de-expeditioners, and they wanted US licenses mainly for de-expeditioning purposes. And so the USA exams officially commenced in Australia in 2016. So prior to that, there was nothing ever actually organised to really consolidate, because you need 3 assessors to actually conduct an exam for US licensing. The founders are Peter Dernicus, VK3FN, K3BV, Chris Dimitrevic, VK3FY, W3YM, and myself, Lee Moyle, VK3GK, NE3M. So both Chris and I are ex-WA assessors. We've been there since day one pretty much, and 15 years of WA assessors. All Peter, Chris and myself are all 5-year ARRL volunteer examiners, and all of us are AMC assessors as well. So there's quite a compilation in just us, plus in the group. So who is VEA? So in 2015, when we got back from Dayton, we established VE Exams Australia. And the main focus of that was actually on US examinations and licensing. After some toing and froing, and a little bit of confusion actually, because a lot of people said, oh, VE, you must be Canadians, which wasn't actually the case. So of course that stands for Volunteer Examiner. So we decided to rename it, or Peter did, to Volunteer Examiners Australia. That was in 2018. So since then, we've become a WA affiliated club, and we're a national organisation. It consists of about 30 ARRL US, and we have also the AMC assessors on board. A lot of us are dual assessors. So we cover all of Australia and globally now via remote online. There's a great platform available, and every week now we're running sessions on local Saturday here. We do run US face-to-face exam sessions every 3 months, and they're all pre-planned, but at the moment, of course, with COVID, they're on hold. And as I said, remote US exam sessions are run weekly. With the AMC at the moment, the face-to-face have always been run as required, but with remotes now, Still, it's on demand, but it normally takes a week or so to get the wheels to turn. And the current moment, in the last month or so, we've been assessing around about 30 US VK candidates a month. So that's quite a significant amount. In fact, it's probably up there with AMC's rate at the current moment. So why want or get a US license? The expeditions is probably the biggest one on the list. International travel can be difficult going overseas to some of these exotic locations. And with a US license, you manage to get easier to get reciprocal licensing. And so it allows you to do activities a little bit easier. The USA has reciprocal with over 80 countries, and Australia has reciprocal with about 35. So you can see, in most cases where we'd go, you would be fine to use your VK license to get a reciprocal to operating permit. But a lot of these exotic ones, you may find that the US gives you the advantage as opposed to the Australian ones, which will have no reciprocal rights at all. You can get to use USA remote operation, where you can connect to the remote sites. And at the US remote, you need to have a US license to operate the remotes. And on the right-hand side there is my friend David, KA2HTV from Long Island, New York. I think this is actually in Maine, this antenna, up the northeast coast of the States. And that's a fully rotating stack. The US license is free, and it's 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, you basically just need to let them know that you're around, and it gets renewed for another 10 years. Currently, it's free. They're talking about introducing a small fee of about $50 if you want to renew it for the next 10 years. But at this stage, it's still not being implemented. Some people just want to get a US license to become a US examiner. And the ARRL has over 50,000 VEs registered. So that's a significant number. When you talk about the WIA, I think had maybe 250, 300. I'm not sure. AMC maybe around about maybe 150. I'm having a stab in the dark. So yeah, the US licensing system is very slick, very honed. It's a well-oiled machine. It's been around for a long time, and it just works. A lot of people get a US license just for self-education and to test their study and learning skills. And a perfect example is Peter, myself, and Chris. We all flew up to Maroochydore, and we did at the Sunshine Coast Amateur Radio Club. We ran a session there. We had 11 candidates. One of the guys was significantly, he was probably 80 plus. I think he had a stroke, and he had some real challenges. And he didn't expect to pass his technician, which he actually did. And then he sat his general, and he passed that as well. So he was like incredibly amazed, because he definitely had some learning challenges. But it was just so good to see that he was able to pass the exams. You can also use your US license for a reciprocal permit in Australia. You get the 12-month operating permit. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle last year about the review and whatnot. That's all been resolved. And ACMA reintroduced the rule of it only lasts for 12 months. So prior to that, ACMA just let it perpetuate on. A bit of noise was made, and so to settle all the disagreements, ACMA made their ruling that that's what happened. So with the US license, you can take it to the AMC and use it for recognition of prior learning. ACMA actually recognised the US license classes as equivalent to either Technician General Extra, equivalent to the Foundation, Standard or Advanced licenses here. And so along with the practical and regulations, you can actually use your US license to as RPL to get your AOCP. And then you can keep operating in Australia. And also because you now can. So as I was saying, prior to 2015, there was really no system in place where we could actually do a US exam here. Had to basically fly to the US or maybe to Thailand, Japan. But now it's actually become local, and now it's actually online as well, makes accessibility really, really good. One of the big questions I get asked a lot is who actually sit US exams? From an Australian perspective, because there's a lot of noise made about this system being introduced into Australia. But the reality is 15% are newbies. They have no license at all. 15% are foundation. And a lot of those guys will use that to RPL, recognition of prior learning. A very low number, 8% are standards. But the surprising figure, which really surprised us when we look at the stats, was 62% of all our candidates are advanced. These guys don't even need to do the US license. They've got a full ticket already. Yet they, a lot of them want to use it because they've got, they'll do a lot of travel. One fellow told me that he was sick of using his VK / license in the US, and he wanted the US extra. And so everyone has their own reason, but it's very surprising that the majority, the significant portion of all our candidates already have an advanced license and just they want to sit it because they can. In the States, there's 3 US license classes. The entry level is the technician. It offers you some HF, 10 meters with SSB and CW. There's I think 80, 40, 15 meters CW only. And it's mainly a VHF, UHF and above license. But the interesting thing is the entry level, they're allowed to use 1500 watts on 30 megs and up and 200 watts below 30 megs. It's a 35 question exam. The difficulty is above our foundation by quite a long way, but it's just below our standard. So if you're a newbie and you pass a technician, there's a good chance that you should be able to pass the VK standard exam. The general class, it's HF, VHF and above, 1500 watts on all modes, all bands. It's 35 questions. And the difficulty of the general is just above our standard, but below our advanced. And the top one in the US is the extra class license. It's all amateur bands, 1500 watts. It's a 50 question exam, and the difficulty is above the advanced quite a bit. But interestingly enough, that you have to do each one in succession. You can't just jump into, I'll just do extra. You need to go through the process because the different classes add on to the previous one. And all the US exams include the USA IT regulations components, and all the US exams are much more difficult than the VK equivalent. What is interesting is the way of learning. So it's a different process. We've had some guys who sat their advanced here several times and not been able to get over the line, yet they can get the do all 3 and get the extra class and then reciprocal across. So it's just, some people just have a different learning mechanism. How does the US exam system work? Well, the best thing about it, most of it's free. It's free online study materials available at hamstudy.org. There's also a couple of other available places. Doug at VK4ADC has got a free downloadable PC executable file. You can download. It's the complete question pool of the US, and it comes with questions, answers, and theory. He's put that together. It's quite a really good tool if you want to have a look at that. Just as a general. Free online trial exams are available in a myriad of places with real questions and answers, and they're available at hamstudy.org, qrz.com, eham.com, qdh.com, and I'm sure there's a swag more available. Study books are available from w5yi.com, ARRL, and there are others. A lot of those books come with CDs as well, and they're quite good. So when I studied for mine, I actually used the books I got them in from W5YI. One good thing is the open question pool. It is 1,500 questions, or actually more, it's about 1,530, I think it is, of questions. So if you can manage to remember all those, good luck. Several people always say, oh, it's really easy because you just remember the questions and answers. Well, 1,500, you really have to be hard pressed. You still have to know your stuff. And the question pools are updated every 3 years or so they rotate. They're not all updated together. Each one is updated at the successive year. And the extra class, I think, was just done this year. Not many questions change, but they take out outdated questions or irrelevant questions, and they add new ones for new technologies and new regulations and stuff like that. So a candidate who wants to sit a US exam and the extra classes must sit each one in succession, as I mentioned before. So it goes technician, general, then you sit your extra class. A really good thing, it's only 22 Australian dollars per exam session, which includes a technician, general, and extra class exam. The criteria is you must pass the previous exam to do the next one. So if you do your tech and pass, and you do your general, and fail the general, and you want to do your extra, you need to have another session. Your tech and general are completed, and then just sit your extra. So that's sort of how it works. The best other good thing about it, which is really cool, is the results are on the day straight away. So the assessors literally grab the paper, your answer sheet, and we have templates. We just drop them on top, have a quick look, and each person of the assessors, we have to have 3 is the minimum, and we all cross-check to make sure it's all squeaky clean. And 3 assessors are there for integrity. And there used to be 2, but the US made it 3 for less likely of fraud, I guess that was the case. Another good thing too at the moment with remotes, when it's all done online, we can shoot off the results straight away to the ARRL. They process that, and the best we've had is 6 hours after an exam, the FCC allocated the call sign to the candidate. When it was with paper, it would go FedEx to the States on a Monday, and they'd normally have their call signs within 2 or 3 days. So it was actually really good service. So on a US exam day by remote, the process is fairly simple. You register at the FCC and log on, and you get an FRN, a Federal Registration Number. Very important, a bit like the ACMA's client number, client ID. And you register your exam session at hamstudy.org. You sit your exam using your PC or tablet at home with a Zoom session. 3 US assessors attend, so they could be anywhere around the globe, and they just join in the Zoom session to be the assessors. And you just use your monitor, and away you go. You answer the exam question online on the screen. Just click the screen to mark the paper, basically. And then when you're finished, you push grade exam, and if you pass, you then continue to the next exam, and it pops up, and off you go again. So when you've totally finished the grade exam, you get instant results, pass or fail. And when you complete, you push the complete button, and all the registration information auto-fills all the forms required. We digitally sign that by clicking on sign form, and that's all automatic as well, and it's all done. So then Peter, in this case, VK3FN, he'll grab hold of the information, the files, and he'll email those off to the ARRL. And within a day, your call sign's issued from the SCC database. So when you've finished your exam, you get one of these. This is your certificate of completion. This is the ARRL one. There's a half a dozen VECs, which are the exam coordinators, volunteer examiner coordinators. They look after the exam teams. W5YI is one, ARRL is another. You've got some guys in California, some in Alaska, and they organise all the teams. So they're basically like, it'd be like having here AMC, WIA, all interfacing into the AMC, into the ACMA. So that's a certificate, and that's a document you can use to prove that you've actually passed. So on the other flip side, we've got BK AMC exams, and this is mainly via remote for those who aren't aware of how the process actually works now. You register with AMC, or a lot of people actually go straight to the VA website and just register there, and we do all the hard work for the candidate, because sometimes navigating the AMC's website is a little bit challenging. AMC then email the candidate the application form for the exam they've chosen and the answer sheets, and they confirm an assessor. Contact is made with an exams held over Skype remotely. We only need a single AMC assessor, which is really convenient, but it makes things a little bit challenging when there's one assessor, one candidate in the exam session, and they attend your online exam via Skype in this case. So the candidate then, after he's filled out all his forms, he's printed out his forms, he's filled them out, his answer sheet, he'll actually scan those back and send those back to the assessor via email. Sometimes I get those in JPEGs, sometimes they're trapezoidal looking forms, or skewed or blurred. It's quite an interesting array of how I get the information back, which I normally have to modify a bit. Yes, the assessor then grabs all that gear, forwards that to AMC for the results and marking, and I had some extra forms like practical forms and assessment forms as well to all that compilation. And now we wait for the results. So currently that's actually running about 5 weeks plus. Initially, if a candidate contacts me or through the VA website to do an AMC exam, and I'll send an email off to AMC, it often at the moment takes about 2 weeks for them to AMC to respond to acknowledge that they've actually got the email, and they send out the application forms. Prior to COVID and other stuff, it was actually running quite well. It was within about a 2 week from go to woe, but at the moment it's blown out quite considerably, and it's a bit unfortunate because a lot of candidates just basically give up. I've had some that didn't even realise that the process was still in place after I got in contact with them. And then after the delay in getting the exams marked, then the AMC sends off to ACMA the application for call sign, and that can take another 2 weeks. So from go to woe, it can be up to 9 weeks from when you initiate the process to when you actually get your call sign up on the ACMA database. It's It's 8:10 p.m.
Lee, you've muted yourself, I think.
Am I good now? Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that, Lee. That was my fault. I tried to mute somebody else and it flipped over to yours.
Oh, did you lose much? That's okay.
And, that's okay.
We'll be good. We'll press on.
So just repeat the last minute of what you said.
Oh, okay. I was just mentioning the fact that at the moment with COVID, it's really unfortunate the delay in with the AMC turnaround for exams has blown out for like the earlier 2 weeks turnaround to about 9 weeks. So from initially making the contact for a candidate to have an exam, it's a 2 week turnaround for the application forms to be emailed, and then 5+ weeks for results, another 2 weeks for ACMA. So it's, hopefully this will get resolved quickly and we'll be back to normal, because candidates are just giving up on the whole process. Okay, now what's happened here? Okay, why can't I? There we go. So we do a bit of a USA and AMC exam processes compared. You can see the USA exams, there's 3 assessors minimum. AMC is 1. I have to admit, 1 assessor is very convenient. You can drop of a hat, someone can come around and do an in-home based exam. Whereas to get 3 assessors for the US exams can be a bit of an arrangement. It has to be all pre-organised. What it does allow for is a legitimate and integrity, and minimises any fraud or alleged fraud. Whereas with 1 assessor, there can be accusations made. So that's a bit of a challenge. And another thing, I mean, there's even things of, because we operate with juniors and we need to have our working with children. So, you know, there could be accusations with 1 assessor. It's awkward with multiple assessors, like with WIA when we had 2 assessors. It was much easier to have some genuine cover and all that sort of thing. With the USA exams, there's an unlimited exam time. There's no restrictions on the time, whereas with the BK ones, there is a time limit on each exam. US assessors mark the exam papers and they cross-check the results, and the exam result is instant for the candidate. With the current system, assessors cannot mark the exams. They have to be sent back to AMC for marking. We can't check the results. We can't give any feedback to the candidates about where they didn't go too well, whatever. And the results are up to 6 weeks from submission back for checking. US, you get a certificate of completion when you're issued. And of course, AMC offer an AOCP once you've completed all the components. The call sign is issued by the FCC in 1 to 2 days after the results being submitted. So its exam to call sign is about 1 or 2 days with the US exam system. With the current AMC one, the exam to, the call sign is issued by ACMA up to 2 weeks after results are submitted. Exam to call signs up to 9 weeks. So looking really forward to getting it back to at least 2, and then maybe even streamlining the system a bit better. Some of the costs. There's been a bit of a furphy going around about the US costs a lot more than the VK version, etc., and whatever. It just depends. The US Technician, General and Extra class is $22, which includes all 3 exams, as long as you pass in succession. The VK AMC Foundation is $90, which includes practical. VK AMC Standard is $90, Advanced $90, Regulation $90. The practical is free with a theory, or $90 if you want to take it alone, which is a very rare option there. And AMC charge $99 fee for the RPL, recognition of prior learning. So if you do a little bit of a chart, I've just done that down there. So the US license plus VK regs plus a VK practical plus your RPL fee gives you an AOCP, whether it be Foundation, Standard or Advanced. So if you look at the US plus if you go by RPL, it's $22 for your exams, $90 for your regs, your practice.
Isn't that
$99. Are we good? We're good. Okay. So if you go the US way with the RPL and to get your AOCP, it'll cost you basically, the best you can do is $211. The best entry level or the best way into the hobby at the moment is definitely the Foundation at $90. Gets you on air. It gives you nearly as good a privileges as your standard license, except it's only 10 watts, not 100. And you don't get all the bands like the standard gets, but it's pretty close. So you don't get 20 meters, and you get 2 and 70, which is a good chit chat, and you get a bit of HF. So it's actually really good value for $90. Given now that they've deregulated the call signs and the 4-letter suffix is gone, I think it's really good. And from a uptake, the 75% of all my candidates for AMC have been Foundation. And some of the guys have been saying they've actually now doing it because the call sign stigma is gone. So that's a really good move forward. And that was a WIA proposal, call sign for life, that some people may have been not happy with, but the general consensus is it's been the best thing for the hobby so far. So if you do a VK Standard or Advanced, it's $90 plus your regs, $90. The prac's free. There's no RPL fee, but it costs $180. Or if you do the whole way through stepping stones, the VK, which is Foundation plus your Standard plus your Advanced, is $270. Plus your regs, $90. No RPL fee. Your prac's free. Is $360. One of the challenges, if you actually manage to fail your VK exam, that's another $90 down the chute. Whereas if you go the US path, it's only $22 for the whole session. So swings and roundabouts. It's basically candidate's choice. I'd recommend most people to go for Foundation nowadays because they get the practical done, they get on air, and they get experience, and then they can choose whichever path they want. At the end of the day, AMC still get all the revenue because the assessors are doing the work for them. And with the RPL, they basically just process a form and some certificates. So with recognition of prior learning, currently the ACMA accepts over 35 country qualifications as Australian equivalents. You can see the website for the Table A and Table B that they accept, the countries. VA from day one has been working very closely with the Australian Maritime College, AMC, for legitimate RPL processing and trying to streamline the process and get it all to happen smoothly. So with RPL, simply provide AMC by application with your US or other acceptable license. Doesn't have to be US, can be UK license, New Zealand license, as long as it meets the criteria in ACMA's Table A and Table B of RPL. Along with the proof of the VK regulations and VK practical passes for APL processing to full AOCP recognition. And you can see the AMC website for recognition of prior learning. So what we also find is a lot of standards will actually go in because they've already got their regulations and their prac, will actually sit the US exam process and just do the extra class, do the 3 exams, get their extra class and process that for RPL with AMC. Sorry for all the acronyms. And then they end up with, they pay a little bit more, I think $30 more, but they end up with the US license, top class, and also an AOCP advanced from AMC. Oh, so a bit, okay, bit tiny. That's a sample AMC RPL application form. and it's basically just on the right-hand side of the form, there's a thing, it's basically tick qualifying material, tick. You have your practical, tick. You have your regulations, fill it all in and chuff it off, and they process that and give you a nice shiny AOCP. So basically the time to sit is now. And this is one of the things that Peter's knocked up for on VEA's website for online exam sessions for the candidates to select their time and date for their session. And then that shoots off and you go off to Ham Study and it does all the processing and the registration and comes back. So that's pretty slick. I guess now, that was it. It was pretty quick. And do you have any questions? And I can unshare. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell, guys.
Okay, I've got a question here. Sorry, you've got David VK3HPD here.
Yep, yep.
I've got a question, a couple of questions actually. If I have, I've got a standard license here, VK3
Yep.
obviously. So if I wanted to do a US course, because I already have a standard Australian call sign, do I still need to do the 3 levels in the US, or do I get an RPL?
No, you have to do all 3. So you got to do technician, general, extra. There's no escaping that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
And these are things like earlier, the free study at Ham Study is a really good place to start.
Yep.
And probably the best thing you could do is just jump on and do some trial exams now and at the different levels, and you'll see where you're at, and then you'll know how to move forward. And then from that, you get to the extra, you do your extra class, and then, as I said, RPL across using that with your practical and regulations you already have to get your advanced here.
Definitely. And thank you. And the other couple of questions is, obviously with Australian call signs, if you move interstate, you have to change call sign according to the state you're in. So what happens to US call signs? How do you get a US call sign when you don't have a US address? How does that work?
Oh, okay. That's a good point, a good question, because that's an oversight in my first time presentation. What we have, we recommend you use Australia Post's mail service in the US, in Oregon. It's a legitimate Australian business. It's registered in the US, and it gives you a US address. And so that's the easiest way there. And then if you go, by the way, just backpedaling, if you head off to Queensland and live, you can keep your VK3 call. That's
definitely, because you can operate portable for quite a bit of time in other states. But if
actually, David, the regulations have changed now, and if you move to another state, you can keep your. Say if you move to Queensland, you can keep your VK3 call sign permanently. So.
Sorry, Graham. How does that work now? Because I was under the impression you can only keep it for a specific number of time, and you can't operate portable over an extended period of time.
Yeah, that's the way it was. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the regulations have changed, and
it's just changed just now.
Yeah, just changed, David. Yeah, so surprisingly you can, and I don't know how it's going to work. I think that we might need to have a workaround as far as also the new call is issued only to the state you live in. Yeah, existing call follow you around. And that's how it is now. So it might be, for example, if someone's in VK6, obviously it's to everyone's interest to know where they are. So maybe they might say, well, VK6 ABC3. In other words, I'm in Victoria. No time limits. Yeah, no time limit. No signing portable. Yeah, so you don't have to say you're portable or anything if you've got a permanent call sign if you live in another state.
Oh, okay. So how I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. If all right, I've got my VK3 call, but if I was to move to New South Wales, for example, say VK2,
you can keep it.
normally I would say I'm, VK3 HPD portable 2, and obviously after a certain number of months, I would then have to get a VK2 call.
Yeah, not anymore. You just need to let ACMA know you've changed your permanent address, and you keep your call sign. Yeah, it is strange, but that's how it is now.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
So how does that work if I'm on the air?
Don't know.
And I've still kept my VK3 call, and I'm coming up as portable.
Don't know,
2.
David, and that's just something they've changed for some reason. I can't understand it either.
Yeah,
But-
that's right.
Anyway, Lee,
as Megan said, there's no requirement to identify your location, but it is to people's interest to know that, I suppose. But look, there might be a workaround.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Just to reiterate, you do need a US call, a US address to get a US license, and that's why we recommend to use Ozpost's, what's it called? Their service in Oregon.
Shopmate.
And I actually,
Shopmate, that's it.
Yeah, I actually found a service online that's called US to Oz, and they do a lot of stuff with shipping packages between US to Australia and all that sort of stuff. It's similar forwarding service. So yeah, it's probably something similar like that, I'm guessing.
That's okay. No worries.
Lee,
Yeah,
because David is blind, and if he wanted to go for a US license and he wants to do it online, is there an audio with it as well as?
Well, thank you,
read it?
Heidi, because that was going to be my next question. Thank you, Heidi, because that was, when I went for my VK call sign in 2004, I actually had to have, I had it was a member from the, I think it was a
WIA.
WIA, yes, and there was somebody else there as well. I think even the ACMA brought a member from them as well to sit in the room with me when I did the exam, and it was all done verbally. That was back in 2004, so that was before the F calls and everything else came in. So that, well done, Heidi, because that was going to be my next question. How does a blind person do a US exam?
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
With the face-to-face, we can do that. We can do a special assessment for you. We basically read the questions and answers out to you. I'm not sure how it goes with the online. I don't think we can at this moment in time. It's just one of those things. And even with an AMC exam, a level 3, I'm a level 3. Oscar, who's also on the Zoom meeting, he's a level 3, and so we can do assessments for you that way as well. But it'll be I don't know if we can do that on remote AMC, but I know we can do it in person. So there's always a way. So where are you located then?
Yeah, it's just that.
Bendigo.
But
Me, I'm in Eagle Hawk.
Make a trip up or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Look, at the moment, I'm not looking at getting into US licensing, but I just thought it was an interesting question. And as I said, well done, Heidi, for bringing it up, because I was about to bring it up and you beat me to it. But no, it was just an interesting thought, because I'm totally blind and I use adaptive technology like screen readers, and got a talking multimeter here too.
Well, actually,
And I've got all sorts
David
of
is
other
quite adept
equipment that.
with electronics and so forth with his loss of sight. And it's surprising just what he can do and what he can't do, actually.
Well, I tell you what, I've actually, in the last couple of years, I've got a fridge, a very interesting fridge here. It's a Dometic Waco, and it's about 110 litres, and it's got two large, very large compartments. You would struggle to fit it on the back passenger seat of a sedan. It's a massive fridge, but I use that as my everyday fridge because it's got a Wi-Fi app that I've got on my phone, and my screen reader reads the temperatures out to me, and it can also run on DC. It runs on batteries as well. And I've just recently got some batteries, AGM batteries here, and yeah,
I've got a question.
I'm
Lee.
going to go from there.
Yeah. Excellent, David. Yeah, question, Lee. Just in regards to only requiring one assessor for the AMC, I know that's the policy, you can have one. That's not my policy, and I will always make sure that there'll be at least two for lots of reasons which you pointed out before. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Do you prefer that? Do you think there should be two, at least two?
We're still recording. That's okay. Now look, this is from a Lee's perspective, being an assessor for 15 years with WIA and 18 months plus with AMC. One assessor is really good for simplicity. There's no doubt about that, but there's always in the back of my mind, mind you, I always try and use two when I can, but always in the back of my mind, allegations of fraud, or it's just fraud with danger. There's something I brought up once about the working with children, with minors, the classic case of, Daddy, the man touched me. Over. Like, how do you, what do you do? Are you done? Single assessor, you're finished. With two assessors, at least you've got the opportunity to, like a witness. Three, never going to happen. But it could be totally innocent, but, your credibility's, reputation's destroyed simply by something as silly as that. So that's a real challenge you face with the one assessor thing. That,
do you think that might eventually change?
I hope so.
AMC policy?
I don't know. Because the other issue is we actually don't mark the papers anymore. So we just reseal the plastic bag and send them back to the AMC. And that seems to, like, it's an adaptive marine, I think, whereas no one really marks the marine stuff. But we're different. We're a totally different cohort. And it does need to be finessed up a little bit. There's definitely a few things that can be improved.
And in regards to, you mentioned before that the US system is a well-oiled machine, and you can potentially have a call sign within several hours. Do you think that the US process might contribute towards streamlining our Australian process down the track?
Well, this is an interesting question. It seems to be a logical answer, but there's quite a few people totally against what we're doing. So I find that quite bizarre, because basically Pete, myself, and Oscar's here now, and on all the other we're just doing it for to improve and enhance the hobby, get more people in while they're hot and ready to go. Opportunities there, and sometimes it's spare of the moment. Oh, I'd like to do an exam now, and if I have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, they just basically give up.
But it's also, I guess, I mean, the US system, if people get a US license in this country, they're still the US licensing system is still contributing towards the Australian system, because they have to either do RPL, that's $99, $90 for the regulations, and so they're paying money anyway into Australia, so it's still...
Well, the net result, if you look at the logistics of the US volunteers us doing that system is AMC basically get a candidate gifted to them with all the work done. There is no exam to mark. They just have to confirm that the license is valid, and that comes from the FCC off the database, and it's certified, and they process. So they actually do minimal work for more revenue. So I'm still at a loss of why there's some groups that are actually opposed to the process, and given the fact that the exams are more difficult to do. So it's interesting. And at the end of the day, you don't have to go through the US system. It does actually cost you more through RPL and other thing. But one interesting thing is that with reciprocal, for $22, you can actually get in, test the water, and you've got 12 months to decide whether you're going to do your regs and prac to keep your license. So that's and I mean, you could do the technician and basically get a reciprocal for a foundation, and then decide what you want to do moving forward. So, but at the end of 12 months, you're pretty much done. You need to decide. And I think most people actually do their US exam, and then will sit there, and we actually encourage to do their practical and regulations as soon as they can, RPL through. And they all seem to not. It's funny, when they get to that stage and they've passed their US exam, the aspect of how much does it cost is not relevant. They just want to actually get it processed through. So initially, often there's a cost component that's a concern, but once they actually pass their general or extra class, the cost of the RPL is irrelevant. So just a good thing for the hobby, just generally.
Yeah, thanks, Lee.
Any other questions for me?
If I can, I've wondered for a while whether this is just another example. I was involved with a company that did government contracting for a long time. And I saw this sort of response a few times where innovative methods were brought in that made the established methods look bad, and people then tried to cover their behinds in order to protect their turf. And I'm just wondering if that's what you guys are coming up against. It's as simple as that.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, if someone could answer for me, that would be really good.
You want
we're
me
still
to answer?
recording. But look, I think sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And
it's easy for me to speculate because I'm not sitting in your hot seat, so I'm not expecting you to answer that.
Well, and the challenge, Jeff, for me is I actually have many hats at the moment I'm wearing, so it can be interesting.
You want me to answer it, Lee?
Do you want to answer it, Pete?
I've got no hats, so yes. Your answer is yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to reinvent the wheel, but there's already a wheel being machined and refined. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff, you've seen how it works. It's just slick. It just works.
Your system is just so easy and so efficient. And look, just as somebody who's done a couple of the exams and failed the third one by a couple, but that's okay. I'll go back for the third one. I highly recommend it, guys. Even if you don't think that you're going to have a need for it, it is just interesting. And I learned. It's a long time. I'm old and grey. It's a long time since I did my advanced, let alone my novice studies back in the day. And lots changed. And I actually found myself studying and learning things that I hadn't thought about for a long time. And all of these little light bulbs were going off in my head. And I was realising that I was understanding bits and pieces that I'd missed the first time around. And even if it's just for that, just to improve your personal skills and knowledge of the what we're doing in our hobby, I think it's worth it. Anyway, that's what I think.
No, thanks, Jeff, for that. That's good. Look, there was we had a guy in one of our Melbourne exams, and look, we try and make them fun. A lot of people come in there very anxious, and they're like really don't know what to expect. And it's real exam conditions. ACMA have been out and seen what we do. And, well, let's just say that they were most impressed. It was definitely a lot more slick and professional than they expected. So it's really good. But this guy passed his technician and he passed his general. And I said, oh, you're going to sit your extra? And he says, no, I'll come back. I said, but you can, it's free. Yeah, it's all inclusive. No, I'll come back. The reason was he wanted to get 100% in every one, and he hadn't studied for his extra. So, and when he came back, sure enough, he got 100%. So, but that was a personal thing he wanted to do, and that was just an interesting concept. But you're right, Jeff. Many people just do it for the exercise of having a bit of fun. It's only $22, and you never know. So it's good. Any other questions?
I've got a comment to make, not really a question, but just a comment. I've been, over the years, I'm only 37, but over the years, I've been listening to emergency services and other comms and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's a lot to be said for phonetic alphabet and phonetic numbering as well. I don't know whether that comes up in the US licensing exams. I know in the Australian, back when I did my call sign, it came up with the phonetic alphabet, but not a lot of people know about phonetic numbering. I don't know if anybody else knows about that one.
It's 8:40 p.m. Yeah, Megan just commented that it does come up in the questions.
Yeah, okay.
And in the part of their regs component.
Yeah, it's just interesting because a lot of people don't realise that there are phonetic numbers, like the number 5 becomes Fife, as in F-I-F-E, and 9 becomes Niner, as in N-I-N-E-R. And most people probably just dismiss it, but I think it's still good to know, because if you're on HF and it's very noisy, static crashes, everything else going on in HF, and you're using phonetic numbering and the phonetic alphabet, I think it's really good. And a lot of people, I've noticed just listening over the last few years, a lot of people just either don't know or don't get it, or something's happened there. But yeah, that's just me. That's my own preference. Other people can take it or leave it, but that's just me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good point, David. Yeah.
And that's all I have. Other than that, and the accessibility of the exams, that was the only two things I had. That was it.
So if there is an interest there, David, we can we'll have a look at that anyway for you, and let yourself or Graham know, and you can pass on the information for you, because it's a special assessment.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I'm not really looking at getting a US license. I don't really need one at this point. I'm happy with the current license I've got. And as for the comment before about interstate within Australia, that is very interesting. I might look into that more, because, if I decide to holiday for a couple of weeks or months or whatever in another state, that is very interesting, because up until now, I was under the impression you can only operate portable for, I can't remember how many weeks it was, and then you had to get another call sign in that state. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not up with all the regs, but yeah, it is interesting. Definitely interesting. And I've always been interested in the phonetic alphabet and phonetic numbering, because me being blind, my ears work, and they work really well, and my pronunciation is really good too. And when you've got a situation where there's background noise or something happening and you can't hear digits or you can't hear letters, the phonetic alphabet and phonetic numbering are just so invaluable. Like, a number that's simple as 45319. Now, because we've got no background noise, that's easy. But if we're on HF, I might have to say 45319, and it just cuts through the noise. That's just me. I've probably waffled on enough, but yeah, that's just how I am.
Are there any more questions for Lee before we officially close the recording?
All good. Well, thanks very much, guys, for your attention. And if you do have any other queries or questions, just shoot me an email or through Graham. Other options, or if you're interested in sitting and studying, go to the vea.org.au website, register, or have a look at the processes, and I'll be explained there a little bit more in depth of how to go about it moving forward. But thanks very much, guys, for the invite. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lee.
Thank you, all you folks from VEA. Thank you very much for your.
Yeah. And I'll officially stop the recording, but we can hang around for general chat. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody.